Hi, I'm Galasbar, and this is my video about the Broken Infantry by Maelstroms Edge. I've seen some fantastic conversions done with this kit lately, so I ordered myself a set, and whilst I was waiting for it to arrive, I had a look on YouTube to see if anybody had tried it out, done a video on it, and I couldn't find anything. So I thought, I'll make a video about it myself. Now, this is my very first YouTube video, so I do apologise if it's a bit of a mess, but I wanted to take a look at these sprues, have a look at what they're like for the sort of kit bashing that I like to do, which is for Necromunda, for obscure parts of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, just interesting models to convert and paint. I wanted to start by talking about what I like to see in a humanoid miniature, sort of things that I look for, and show you some of the models that I've made and painted and converted in the past. So if we go right back to the earliest days of 40k, this fella here from the original 1988, I believe, mercenary line. You see characterful faces, and that's what makes a miniature in my mind. Only slightly converted this one by adding a backpack from a Scion kit, which appeared to fit him quite well as a radio operator, and you can see the sheer amount of character in there, and he was an absolute joy to paint. Likewise, on more modern miniatures, like my Orlok gang here, I've tried to use parts that give them some character, much like the older models. So we can see this guy's had a head swap. This guy, another head swap, I believe, from Stormcast Eternals kit. Let's take a look at him. There we go, autofocus. And others where I've simply swapped the weapon. So again, it's getting that character to come through. Now, I'm more than happy to use third-party bits when they prove to be versatile, when they've helped me to create sort of interesting models, interesting poses. So this guy, for example, was made with parts by Victoria Miniatures, a company from Australia run by the famous painter Victoria Lamb. This is mostly made from her parts, with a torso from, I believe, an Imperial Guard pilot figure, and a radio from the Catachin kit to convert this guy into a believable radio operator. Similarly, although I can't remember where all the parts came from for this guy, I used a set of metal greatcoat legs in a running pose, an alternative head, and then Games Workshop's Cadian torso, arms and weapons to create a really dramatic plasma gun. At least that was what I was going for here. And similarly, this is a standard bearer made at the same time. I've added a machete there from, I believe that was an Empire kit, and the torso is from Forge World Cadian upgrade kit, and the same metal running legs there make quite a dynamic miniature. What I also like is being able to use the newer parts with the older stuff. So here we've got a bounty hunter miniature. This is again a 1980s original, but rather than use the original plastic arms, which are a bit lacking in detail and interest, I've used some, I think, again from an Empire kit, and from an Imperial Guard vehicle operator to give him a pose that really stands out. And onto this lady. This was a test model for an Escher gang that I'm working on. I've used a set of military heads there and given a military style paint scheme to try and create the idea of an Escher gang who have a peculiar obsession with all things military. Moving on, this is a set of conversions I made recently. This was a test to see what I could do using just two kits. In this case, it's the Necromunda Corridor kit and also the Warhammer Fantasy Battle, now Age of Sigmar zombie kit. So you can see I've been chopping hands off and placing hands on poles and all sorts of quite unpleasant details. The idea here, I was thinking about the dregs from a Death Guard battle barge, the half-dead sloggers, as they've been referred to in the books. There's another one of these guys, and see, I've tried to give him some dynamism, tried to give him a bit of viciousness, a bit of character about him by using the different parts, by chopping and changing to make something that I hope is memorable. And finally, this is a Chaos Cultist I put together using parts from Chaos Marauders and Catagens. I believe the weapon comes from a 90s Necromunda model, head from a Flagellant, great big shoulder pad there from a Chaos Knight. And again, it's about creating something that stands out, that's personal to me, but something that fits into the world quite well. So what I'm hoping from the Broken Infantry kit is that I can make something that will stand alongside these guys, particularly things that will be useful as hive scum and bounty hunters for Necromunda, as the general Imperial weirdos, as some people call them. So we're talking battle psychers, inquisitors, retinues, that kind of thing. Perhaps also civilians or objectives for Necromunda games. And there's also a movement, I've heard it called Inc 28, Inquisitor 28, where people use Warhammer 40,000 scale miniatures to create something really grim and dark and reminiscent of the paintings of John Blanche for use in skirmish games. And finally, I'm hoping for a really fun painting project, you know. All of these models were very enjoyable to paint, and, you know, I've learnt new things doing each one. So I'm hoping that the Broken Infantry kit, combined with other parts that I've got around, will make for some really interesting conversions. Moving on to the Broken Infantry kit. This is a set of 4 sprues. 3 of them, like this one, have torsos, legs, arms and heads. And you can see here that each sprue has 4 sets of legs on it. This was one of the things that attracted me to the kit first, because you've got 12 sets of legs for a kit that's only designed to build 6 troopers. And if you're anything like me, when you're kit bashing, legs are one thing you never quite have enough of. So very handy to have 6 extra here. And you can see that there's a lot of detail on these kits, but all of it is fairly generic. It's not covered in insignias and designs from a particular universe or from a particular faction. So it's the sort of thing that can easily be combined with other parts and make something that you can fit in the world of Warhammer 40,000 or Necromunda. The layout of the kit is quite similar to the previous generation of Games Workshop kits, where you had separate legs and torsos and arms and so on, as opposed to the newer kits, which tend to be more monopose, tend to have the legs and body at least in one part. Now, there's pros and cons to this. I mean, of course, with these older kits, in theory, you had an infinite number of poses that you could put together by combining the parts. In practice, of course, some poses work much better than others, and there was only a limited amount you could really do without a lot of cutting and creative use of parts, without making things look quite unusual, whereas the newer kits can have some very dynamic poses straight out of the box, just in virtue of having the torso and legs as part of the same kit. You can see that as well as having extra legs, there's a lot of arms here. Slightly unusual compared to some of the Games Workshop stuff. You can see that the hands are all open in one shape or another. And this is because the weapons that it comes with, they're designed to be sort of slotted in here, whereas the norm with Games Workshop kits is that you would have a hand that was closed, that was holding a trigger, and then you'd cut away the pistol grip, for example, from the weapon. So I'll be interested to see how this works. This is quite a different approach. And you can see we've got a few heads on this sprue. So this one here is looking straight at us here. You see there's a lot of detail there, quite a bit of character as well. And you've got 3 other heads. So one masked and hatted there, and 2 with some version of bionic eye or targeter, which again, I think looks generic enough that it could be used in a Warhammer 40,000 setting. Let's take a quick look at the second sprue. Again, very similar layout. Again, you've got 2 legs that are sort of kilted or robed, and then 2 that are more like military fatigues. Again, you've got 2 torsos on this kit, front and back in separate pieces, and another massive selection of arms. They're all nicely labelled so that you can match them up with each other to get arms that work together to hold a weapon. And we've got some very different heads on here. That has quite an Adeptus Mechanicus feel to it. Second head on a similar design there. And I don't know if you can see these, but we've got some more generic heads with really high mohawks, which is always a great look. So I like the fact that we've got lots of sort of screw and cog designs and little bits of machinery on the torsos here as well, which that gives it the ragtag thing that we're looking for. Again, it's lots of detail, but it's not too specific, so you can see a lot of these things fitting in very well to Necromunda. And here's the third sprue of similar parts. Now, this one is not quite as well cast as the other. There's some slight flashing on here, but very, very slight. And we don't have much in the way of mould lines. There's a little mould line on there, nothing that can't be taken off with a few minutes with a hobby knife or a mould line remover tool. Again, another 4 set of legs, some nice sort of ragged detail going on there. 2 more torsos We've got some heads there again. There's interesting targeter or bionic business going on there. And two more of those heads with caps and face masks. So you can see the sheer amount of variety you've got there with the characters you can create. The fourth sprue is a bit different. This is mostly made up of weapons. And the weapons are, well, they're quite strange in some cases. I mean, we've got some rifles here, which are very generic. You could definitely use them as autoguns in a 40k or Necromunda setting. I like the way that they're wrapped up. You could paint that as rags for something like a Cordal gang, or if you were moving more towards Imperial Guard, you could use that as like camouflage wrapping. Also, the way they are wrapped means they'd be rather good, over somebody's back as opposed to just in their hands. And you can see that these are complete weapons. So you've got the all the hand grips and stock on there, and you shouldn't need to remove them because, as we saw earlier, you've got those open hands that should be designed to fit into them. And let's see, this I think is designed as a sort of energy weapon, but it's very much a shotgun design, and I think with a single barrel hole sprue drilled down the middle there, that could definitely make a very good shotgun for Necromunda. That is definitely a flamer of some sort. You can see we've got the distinctive flamer muzzle there and some tank type parts further down, so definitely work as an alternative flamer design. And similarly, you've got something that looks more like a hand flamer on the same design there. And what I particularly like, these weapons here, I think that would be rather nice for making a needle rifle, which is something you don't see so often in plastic kits, having that sort of that very fine point on the barrel there. Perhaps it would work best if with a sight or a targeter added to the top to create a really handy needle rifle. Some of the other weapons here probably of limited use in a Necromunda or Games Workshop setting. I mean, these beam weapons here, it's potentially some variety of lasgun, but doesn't really match the style. You've got some quite carbine type weapons here, which I think would be reasonably suitable for a Vansar gang, but not so generally suitable. And the pistols, certainly you could find some use for them. I mean, that could be a needle pistol or similar. And then you've got some really quite obscure weapons. I mean, I have no idea what that's supposed to be at the bottom there. That, I think it's supposed to be a weapon. It would be quite useful for an Allspex or similar tool. Very unusual pistol design with a massive stock on the end there. But you see, there's things you can do with these. There's inspiration that I'm sure different people will take to make something interesting out of these parts. And finally, on this sprue, you've got a set of heads, but unlike on the other three, they are not human. So you've got various sort of alien designs, some of them fairly generic aliens, some quite out there designs, like, we've got monsters with no eyes and so on here. So these might be useful if you were looking to make Xenos bounty hunters or some really gnarly mutants from the sump. Possibly not so useful to me, but I think other people will make some great use. The exception for me is these two heads here, which I could definitely see myself using for Chaos Cultists or something similar. They could certainly work as very corrupted, mutated humanoid faces, and there seems to be quite a bit of malice in there, quite a lot of character. So they could be a lot of fun to use. A couple more of those alien heads. A Molotov cocktail, very nice. So, we're talking 4 sprues for £10. And there's even some savings you can make if you get larger sets of models. So this does seem to be a very good value kit. Now what I'm going to go away and do now is take a few parts out of these sprues, put the legs on some bases, see how things fit with some other parts, and see just what we can do with these kits. Right, I've assembled some of the Broken Infantry models, and I can show you how they've come together. In this case, we've got a Broken Infantry model in its entirety, minus the arms, of course, because what I have done is use blue tack to temporarily attach the head here, so we can see how that will look. I have glued the legs and body together because this is a combination of legs and body that only goes together that way. And you can see the detail is quite fantastic. This stern patrician aspect to him, and he is quite tall as well, slightly taller than a standard Orlok model, for example, but not quite as tall as the larger Arms Master Orlok kit there. And moving on to some of the other experiments I've done. This is using a torso from the Broken Infantry kit together with standard Cadian legs and a head from a Space Wolf Scout, I believe. Again, this is all blue tacked together, as I may change this in the future. But you can see these parts are perfectly sized for each other. I have no doubt at all that when the Broken Infantry were designed, compatibility with the Cadian kit and others like it was a high priority. And that seems to fit together perfectly. Likewise, we have a model here, again using a torso from the Broken Infantry kit, together with legs from the Empire Militia kit, and a head from the Orlok plastic set. And all combines very nicely to give that ragtag look. Definitely the sort of character I'm looking for there. Another miniature, this is using the legs from the Broken Infantry with a Cadian torso and a head by Victoria Miniatures. All fits together very nicely, no awkward gaps there beyond what the blue tack has caused, and you can see that that's quite a viable character form miniature. This one is put together using, if I can get that to focus, a torso from a source I honestly can't remember. I've had that around a few years. The head and the legs there come from the Broken Infantry set. Again, just getting that ragtag look perfect for the Underhive, I would say. And finally, this is a combination of Broken Infantry legs with a Victoria Miniatures torso and a head from, I believe, the Empire Handgunners. And you can see how nicely that goes together. This is my personal favourite. He definitely looks like a survivor of the Underhive or other hazardous situations. So, in conclusion, I am extremely happy with the Broken Infantry kit. For a good value set of models, I mean, I've only removed a few parts from the sprues here. You can see just how many possibilities there are. And what I plan to do now is take these models, these parts, and perhaps some others, put together some completed, fully assembled models, and hopefully show those to you in a second video. Perhaps I'll even get them painted as well. So, thank you very much for watching this. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to be joining you with more videos later. Goodbye.